Let us join now live from Sioux City, Iowa, Newt Gingrich. Good morning to you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Thank you very much. Listen, a couple of days ago, Mitt Romney said that you not getting on the ballot in Virginia was, a little disorganized, much like Lucy at the chocolate factory. I understand, and then he said on this program yesterday that he was just joking around. But I understand yesterday, Mr. Speaker, in the city of my birth, Algona, Iowa, you turned the tables on Mitt Romney, and you actually went to a chocolate factory. Did you feel like Lucy?
Well, that's a great segment, and I can't say it may have dated both Romney and me to refer back to a Lucy Ball segment, but it's a great shop in Algona and wonderful young family that runs it, and we had a great time. They actually allowed Calista and me to make some chocolate. Calista's mother loves chocolate, so we got Bernita a little bit of extra chocolate for the new year. And let me say, by the way, Happy New Year to you guys. I hope you have a great New Year's Eve.
Thank you.
And a chance for some new resolutions. And I'll bet you having 3 kinds of butter won't be on your New Year's resolutions.
I'd like it to be.
Getting rid of butter would be on my New Year's resolution. Maybe getting on the Virginia ballot might be part of your New Year's resolution. That's certainly the...
Well, it'd be good. By the way, you'll notice that Governor Perry's filed a lawsuit. That Rick Santorum didn't get on the ballot, that Michelle Bachmann and John Huntsman didn't get on the ballot.
You have Democrats coming to your aid
We're hoping
now?
that'll get...
Yeah, you have Democrats coming to your aid on that as well. But I have to ask you, though, about this idea that fraud was involved, that somehow these signatures were turned over. One of these guys may have actually turned in some false signatures there, which you now say, are you going to sue?
Well, I don't know what will happen on that front because, frankly, we're focused on Iowa and then New Hampshire and South Carolina. The lawyers are looking at that, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm a historian. But let me say that here we're very excited today because we have Art Laffer, who in many ways was the father of Reaganomics. He and I worked with Jack Kemp back in the early part of the Reagan presidency and developed the economic program that created millions and millions of new jobs. And Art's coming to Iowa today to endorse me, and we're very excited to have somebody of his background and his caliber to help verify that the economic plan I have will create millions of new jobs and we'll get the economy moving again. And that's really the focus of the closing days here in Iowa. We've done 3 telephone town hall meetings. We've had 32,000 people on the calls. I feel very good about it. Our crowds everywhere we went yesterday were very, very large. In fact, in Algona and the chocolate factory, you was standing room only. It was hard to pass out the chocolates. There were so many people standing together. So we're having very good crowds, and we'll see what happens. I think this is totally up in the air, and I think that it's a little bit hard to know now. We got 4 more days of like this before we get to the final vote at the caucus.
Right. I mean, but speaking of this, the up and downs, there's a new poll, a new Time magazine, CNN poll, that shows you in Iowa having slipped to 4th place. Now, Rick Santorum actually surging. What do you make of that?
Well, I think anybody who has $8 or $9 million of negative advertising, much of it false, thrown at them is going to slide for a while. We now have our ads up starting yesterday. They're very positive. They're very direct. They talk about my record. There's a brand new Michael Reagan program up in which Michael Reagan talks about how I worked with his father and why, if you're a Reagan conservative, I'm the right candidate. We have a number of other things happening. They're all positive. And I'm frankly barnstorming Iowa, making the case that they shouldn't vote for the people who've been running the negative ads. This is a chance for Iowans to say to the country, we are sick of consultant-driven negative politics. The stakes are too big. The election's too important. Let's elect somebody who has big solutions and who actually has a track record in Washington of getting it done. And on the ground, we're getting tremendous response, as your own correspondents can tell you. On the ground, our crowds are large, and a large number of people walking up saying that they're going to caucus with me Tuesday night.
You just mentioned Michael Reagan, and I know you worked with his father when you were back in the day. And you've written a Wall Street Journal editorial today where you talk about Reagan had a great recipe for success for America, and it led to for decades of positivity and good growth here in the United States. And some of the points: tax reform, a sound dollar, and smarter regulations. And one of the things you suggest is a 15% flat tax. And for the people who are, they were familiar with Herman Cain's 999, might not be familiar with your 15% flat tax. Explain how that would work.
Well, this is an idea we developed from Steve Forbes' work. So from Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, for the last generation, you have a choice. You keep all the deductions, a complex system, exactly what we have now, or you put down how much you earned, how many dependents you have, and you pay 15%. One page, very simple. And by giving people, you eliminate the political fight over taking away deductions, and you people who are better off on a very simple, very straightforward form, who don't want to keep lots of records, don't want to fill out lots of complicated forms. So our 15% flat tax gives people a very vivid, clear choice and enables them to lower their taxes. We also have a zero capital gains tax to bring in hundreds of billions of dollars for new investment, for factories and for new businesses. We have a 12.5% corporate tax rate, which will bring in about $700 billion in locked up profits overseas and let our companies compete worldwide. We have 100% expensing, which means if you buy new equipment as a farmer, a factory, a business, you write it off in 1 year to make us the most modern country in the world, the most productive machinery in the world. And we eliminate the death tax permanently so family businesses can focus on job creation.
Well, one big question that's come up over the past couple of weeks in Iowa, and maybe even before that, is who's the true conservative in Iowa? We've heard all of these different messages out there, moderate, Mitt, and kind of lumping you in with him on that. Now there's an evangelical pastor, Kerry Gordon, who is calling for a Michelle Bachmann, Rick Santorum ticket. Take a listen.
There is legitimate concerns among evangelical people and otherwise about marital infidelity, but more importantly, in addition to that, there's also the issue of ideological infidelity. You know, we go back to 1995, and you have comments from Newt, according to the Chicago Tribune, that he was supporting federally funded abortions for poor women in certain situations. My counsel has been for his campaign, if you're a changed man, if you're a new man, then go back and run for a lower office and show us the new Newt Gingrich that's different than the old Newt Gingrich.
Any plans, Mr. Speaker, to run for a lower office and step back and let Michelle Bachmann and Rick Santorum run away with it?
Look, first of all, there are thousands of people who have opinions. He's one of them. What he said about 1995 is false. I don't know where he got that from. It's not true. I have a consistent record on right to life, and in fact, I had a 98.6% voting record with the National Right to Life Committee. I twice helped pass partial birth abortion, which President Clinton vetoed. It was finally signed into law by President Bush. But my record in that area has been consistent all the way through my career. So, you know, when you're in the middle of a campaign, different people show up and they make different allegations. The fact is, I've been a conservative. I went to a Goldwater organizing meeting in 1964. I worked with Ronald Reagan from 1974 on. I helped, I have a 90% American Conservative Union voting record. It's pretty hard to be much more consistent than that, and a pretty big gap between a Massachusetts moderate and a Georgia conservative in terms of voting records and patterns.
Mr. Speaker, threw this out there on social media early this morning among our viewers, and this question was the #1 question from our viewers this morning. How would President Gingrich handle the current state of affairs in Iraq as it relates to Iran?
Well, I think that question is exactly the right one. We have two different big challenges in the Middle East. We have a challenge of Iran, which is trying to get nuclear weapons and which is an active fomenter of problems in places like Iraq and frankly, in the Palestinian-Israeli situation. And we have the problem of the long-run challenge of radical Islamists, which runs all the way from Nigeria across the region and which has led to 120-some people being arrested in the U.S. under the Obama administration. So let's separate the two. The right strategy in the Gulf is to replace the current Iranian regime. And the right way to do that is what Ronald Reagan, Pope John Paul II, and Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher did in the 1980s. Create a strategy that's not primarily military, but that is primarily psychological, political, economic, and go right at the regime and make clear to everybody that we want to replace the regime and do everything we can to crumble it and to get it replaced. Overwhelmingly, people under 40 in Iran hate the regime, and we should be actively helping them get organized to replace it. Because as long as Iran is there, they're going to cause trouble in Iraq, they're going to cause trouble between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and they're working every single day to get a nuclear weapon. And an Iranian nuclear weapon is a mortal threat to the United States. Anybody who says to you they won't use it is out of touch with reality. If somebody's willing to put on a body bomb and walk into a bus or a mall or a restaurant and blow themselves up in order to kill you, why would you think they wouldn't put on a nuclear weapon with great enthusiasm to blow up lots of people?
Yeah.
And I think we have a huge interest in not allowing them to get a nuclear weapon.
And Mr. Speaker, what about what happened in Iraq last week? 69 people at least were killed that were just sitting at cafes, they were going to their jobs, they were just shopping. What would President Gingrich do about that today?
Well, look, historians are going to look back and they're going to be amazed at the naivete and the lack of knowledge of the Obama administration. When Obama met with Prime Minister Maliki about a week ago, one of the people in the Prime Minister's party was the head of an Iranian Revolutionary Guard brigade, a man who's been accused of killing Americans. Now, an American administration that is so lacking in knowledge and so timid about confronting Iran that they allowed a member of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard to come to the White House meeting is an administration that has no concept of what's going on over there. Maliki, on behalf of the Iranians who are Shia, is actively trying to squeeze out the Sunnis, which his vice president is, and you got this three-way fight between the Kurds, the Sunni Arabs, and the Shia Arabs, and it's a bitter, long fight, and it's one which, frankly, shouldn't be going on, but is. We don't have the capacity to stop it right now, and the Iranians are actively fomenting it and actively supporting it, and that's why the real key is to go after Iran, not to go after Iraq.
Well, what about, Mr. Speaker, with what's going on with Iran with regard to the Straits of Hormuz? They're saying, look, if you crack down on us too much with the sanctions, world community, we're going to turn off the spigot of oil, and you're all going to be paying double for gas.
You just gave the best possible argument for an American energy policy. It's why I'm for drilling offshore for oil and gas, developing coal, developing wind and solar, developing nuclear, developing biofuels, including ethanol and soy diesel. We should be using, and nuclear power, we should be doing everything we can to create a surplus of American energy. So if something happens in the Persian Gulf, you do not get a depression in the industrial world. And once again, you have an Obama administration which is totally blind to the pressures, even though 2011 was the most expensive gasoline on average in American history. This administration doesn't get it, and I think that their policies are exactly backwards.
All right, Newt Gingrich joining us from a breakfast place in Sioux City. You were at the chocolate factory yesterday. Any chance you're going to go into the kitchen there this morning in Sioux City?
Well, I might drop in here, although here this is a little bit more of eggs and bacon, and you know, this is a big bacon and ham state, so I would check in the kitchen for a few minutes. All right?
That's great. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
And have a happy New Year.
You too as well.
The American people create jobs, not government. Okay? Now, starts very simple. Lower taxes, less regulation, an American energy plan, and actually be positive about people who create jobs. The opposite of the Obama plan. Nothing will turn America around more than election night when Barack Obama loses decisively. I'm Newt Gingrich, and I approve this message.